Hi, my name is Mrs. Schroeder. I am a 5th grade teacher, and we spent a week in Immerse at the Grand Rapids Public Museum. My students have learned that the kiosks are there for a reason. They know like some of the background we've done when we've done timelines and things like that. They would point out the timelines. They were making the connections there and knowing how to read a timeline. They were using the academic vocab when we came back. Like it was very obvious they'd been reading things. Or they'd come back and say, Mrs. Schroeder, do you remember when we talked about blah, 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 blah? Well, I saw, and it would be an extension, and then it would just catapult from there. They'd be constantly doing that, connecting, and them saying that they'd seen it. Or even now, like we'll be reading something like, do you remember at the museum we saw? It doesn't stop when we get back the next day. It's a continuation. People have asked us why our test scores come out the way they do in the higher ranges. And it's because we do a lot of it is because of Immerse. The kids will come back after taking a test or reading something and say, we saw that at the museum, or we know that from the museum, or do you remember that from the museum? You know, it sticks when you can see something or you can hold something. I have a student in here who's Jewish, and she's very proud of it. Like this is like her big thing. But in this area, just quite transparent, we don't have a lot of Jewish students. So anyway, we were talking about all the different exhibits going into it, and we talked about newcomers, and we talked about the fact that it was our backing up our social studies with people coming into the new country, and what are the reasons we come in. And one of them is religion. And she came up to me prior to the museum and said, is there anything about being Jewish? And I said, sweetie, you're gonna have to wait till we get there. So Monday we were there, and they were doing their scavenger hunt. And I turned, and she was sitting on the floor outside of newcomers with the menorah. And I looked at her, and she said, Mrs. Schroeder, do you know what that is? I said, yes, I do. And she said, I'm here. Fast forward. We do the newcomers exhibit, and when they're doing the scavenger hunt, and all of a sudden, I heard a squeal. And I got back there, and she's standing back there. She goes, Mrs. Schroeder, I want you to look at this picture. Look at this picture. I'm like, yeah, that's the back of my temple. I know that's the back of my temple. That's the back of my temple. I know exactly where this is. And she said, do you realize they got married in my temple? And I said, how cool. You're the only person who ever know more about that. Tell me more about it. And so she went on to tell me what was on to the left of the photo, what was to the right of the photo, and everything. And she turned around, and she got tears running down my face, and she said, I do belong here. I belong. Don't tell me that didn't change a life. Of all the, I mean, there's some really great stuff here. I had a child connect, and I didn't do it. She did, and the museum did.